we're going to break 200,000 for sure. I'll probably get somewhere close to 300,000 for the month, which is exactly what we had planned on. And I think you've got, you yourself, Yona, and the team, you've got the credentials, you've got the experience, and you've got the results.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Yona.
Yeah, good to have you. So, yeah, just for starters, I would love it if you could just start off by just telling us, what is your business?
So Vision Tech, we design, manufacture, and sell computer peripherals. So anything from docking stations to mice, keyboards, cables, basically everything that you need except the laptop itself.
Okay. And how long have you guys been around?
We've been around since 1987. So what, 42 years now?
It's crazy that the company is older than me. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely been through its cycles, and with your help, we're going through this transition to really put a lot more focus on direct to consumer, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today.
So, yeah, obviously we work with businesses of all different sizes, right? We work with businesses that are public companies, some that are doing over $1 billion. We also work with, brands that are launching that are pre-revenue. So just to get an understanding, what's the size of Vision Tech?
So, I on an annual revenue basis,
Yeah.
or employees, everything.
I guess
So
both either.
on a okay year, we're about 15 million. On a great year, we can push up to about 45 million. All depends on what we're doing and with the clients that we're working with on the B2B side.
Yeah.
But that right there, that fluctuation change, um, depending on the deals and the B2B side, is why we're actually moving more into the D2C, because we want the revenue streams to be much more consistent.
Okay, that makes sense. So, just to kind of extrapolate that a little bit, I know, when we started working together, you're in this awkward period where essentially you were, for the most part, just vendor central, just starting to transition into seller central.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about trying to double down with D2C, are you referring to selling on your own website? Are you referring to owning the listing on Amazon? What exactly do you mean?
So it'd be both. Amazon is definitely one of the major platforms for us now and going forward in the future. And we are also simultaneously revamping the Vision Tech website to help propagate more D2C sales. It's not necessarily to steal from Amazon or vice versa, but we know that if we have the right setup on the website and Google Ads, it raises the water for everybody. So that's
Totally. It's an ecosystem that feeds into one another.
right.
And why did you want to move away from Vendor Central?
Vendor Central, well, one, margin, right? Better margin on seller. We feel like we've got more control over our destiny and how we want to move forward with the products, pricing, and but we don't want to necessarily get rid of Vendor Central. We want to keep a small handful of SKUs on it, just in case. Who knows? Amazon wants to make a change 5 years from now, and we'll still have that platform available if we need it.
Yeah, this is a very common experience that we're seeing across the board where, there's another brand that we work with that has probably 100,000 SKUs, and they're basically getting rid of 88,000 SKUs from Vendor Central, and they're keeping 12,000 SKUs on Vendor Central, but the rest are going to Seller Central. So, oftentimes the problem that sellers are experiencing is they tell Amazon, this is our MSRP. Amazon doesn't care, and as a result, as you're saying, you don't really have control of the margin. So, I know that, and I tell this to people all the time, the process of going from Vendor Central to Seller Central is usually a painful process in the sense that there's this awkward period where you and Amazon are fighting with one another, right? Amazon essentially has your product in stock, you try and undercut them, suddenly they undercut you, they get the buy box. What has that been like for you?
Uh, yeah, I that's a good word, awkward. You know, um, because if you look back, a year ago, you can see that the sales for Central and Seller were almost 50-50. And since we've put so much effort and intention in making that transition, you've seen the sales lower on Central and continue to shift, but it's still not 100% yet. So in a way, we're kind of losing a bit of revenue. I'd say maybe 5 to 7% that we would have if things had been left alone, no change. But at the same time, that 5 to 7% didn't provide the same amount of margin. So on the margin side, we're kind of ahead.
That makes sense. And then also, yeah, obviously revenue isn't everything. It's about profitability. But even more than that, when you're in this transition period, it's not about instant gratification. It's a matter of where do we want to be in a year, 2 years from now? I
Right.
imagine that's the thought process.
Correct. And it is. This is it's not a 12-month process. And we knew that from the beginning. But I do think, with your team's help, we're going to be able to accelerate through that. I would imagine here shortly, within the next 3 to 4 months, we are going to be exactly where we thought we would be. And then we don't have to look back and I don't have to look at those numbers again.
That's so good. So, yeah, what has it been like working with the team?
Um, I'll go all the way back to the interview. When we first started down this road of looking for an agency to help us, dramatically change the format. And that interview with you was inspiring. It was motivating. And it was like no other discussion I had with any other agency. And I think since then, it's just continued to got better. The team we're working with, whether it's Athen or Mac, Ramiz, the communication's fabulous. It took us a little bit of time to get used to Slack, I'll say that. But other than that, I like working with AGL. I can't say that enough. And it's because the team is proactive. They've got expertise. Even when we make suggestions, they don't hesitate to say, I wouldn't do that. And here's why. But also just the learning experience has made the internal team here better.
Hmm.
So
What made you decide to use an external agency as opposed to, if you're a business that's doing $15 to $45 million a year, obviously you have the budget and resources to build a team internally. Why choose to use an agency?
um, that's, I went back and forth on that a lot, to go third party versus internal. And really I guess the downside to being trying to do that yourself is that it's always somebody's part-time job to a degree, meaning somebody always has some type of other responsibility, whereas your team is just in it every single day and learning and learning and learning. And I can't duplicate that on the inside. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have necessarily all the resources to do that because we've got other segments that we're worried about, or even just the operations themselves. So by going with a third party, that experience is deep. You've got a team of people that are completely vested in Amazon, and you just know it much, much better than we do. And that's the upside to that is exactly what we saw is that transition from us doing it to now having AGL on board, and you saw that ramp across all the KPIs, right, including the revenue. So
When you say that ramp across all KPIs, what have been some of the quantifiable results you've seen?
I mean, well, one, revenue, right? Especially on the seller side, we've just seen that continue to take off. Conversion rate, impressions, you've managed to properly take care of tacos, and that hasn't been or need to be a big part of the discussion. And, you know, actually, we just had the call, I don't know, maybe an hour ago with the team, and last week we had the biggest week of sales that we've had yet since we've joined Amazon. So that's the biggest KPI for me.
That makes sense, right? It's communication is important, being proactive is important, but at the end of the day, you're a business, and if it's not helpful to the bottom line, it depends on the goal. Bottom line or revenue, nothing really matters other than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you anticipate? Well, for starters, how long have you been working with AGL?
So when did we start? October 24, and now we're into June 25. So not even quite a year yet.
What do you foresee is going to happen over the next 6 months to a year?
Well, one, I know for sure now we're going to hit that a couple milestones, right? We're looking to get that weekly number to a milestone that we had set with the team, and then ultimately the monthly number, which we want to. The stretch goal was 400,000. We're going to break 200,000 for sure. I probably get somewhere close to 300,000 for the month, which is exactly what we had planned on. And then the other thing that I'm kind of looking forward to is when we hit those thresholds, right? The monthly fee changes for you guys, because then you guys will get commissions because we're hitting those numbers. And that's another thing, that you could see that as a negative, but I see it kind of as a positive, because that means we're hitting exactly what we said we would hit. And for that, I think there should be a reward.
Yeah, it makes sense. At the end of the day, you want incentives to be aligned, right? Like, I know that oftentimes if you're working with an agency that has a flat fee and there's no skin in the game, you don't necessarily see the same level of hunger 2 years down the line, because at the end of the day, if you're doing, if you're showing up 60% or 120%, it doesn't really make a difference.
Exactly. And you can tell that, and I can tell that just by the way that, on a pretty daily basis, right? I'm talking to Ramiz or Mac. In one way or another, I know that they're aware of where they're at and what they need to do. And it's not me pushing them. It's they want to get to those numbers because they got skin in the game.
Do you feel that they care about the business as much as you?
That is one thing that came through loud and clear in the interview when I first met you, that I felt that you did care, and that it didn't matter if it was us or another client, that you did care, right? And your team echoes all of that. They do care, or we wouldn't be seeing the results, right? Somebody could just be pushing the buttons and the results are the results, but you can just tell from the proactiveness, whether it's in the communication or the ideas behind some of the campaigns, or, begrudgingly they push on us because your titling is just out of whack. You need to change it. And because of that, I know they care.
So what are I know when we started working together, we weren't doing creatives initially. What made you change that over time and have the team do creatives internally versus, I know you have your own in-house creative team?
Speed, number one. And two, I'll go back to that expertise. It's one of the better parts of, I think, working with whether it's the websites or Amazon, is that the opinions are eliminated. It's data driven, right? And I can tell, whether it's through A/B testing or just performance of the product overall, impressions, whatever KPI you want to look at, I don't have to rely, and nor should the business rely on a creative opinion. And your team knows, based on your success, your other client success, what those creatives need to look like. And you're able to execute it at a speed that we are not. So that was an easy transition for me.
And then final question, what would you tell someone else that's debating whether or not they should hire AGL?
Well, one, do what every business should do, the due diligence. Look at all the agencies, do the face-to-face calls. But in the end, look at the performance. And I think you've got, you yourself, Yona, and the team, you've got the credentials, you've got the experience, and you've got the results. So it was an easy decision for me.
Well, I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks, man. It's always great to see you.
Yeah, Yona, thank you. I appreciate it.